What's up guys, Poodadoo here, and this is what I'm trying to accomplish in OBS, and I'm really struggling with how to do it, so I'm putting this video out for anyone who could potentially help me figure out an easier way to do this. So let's take a look at what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is, if you look down here in the bottom right corner, I have all of my typical production scenes, starting soon, just chatting, intermission, and gameplay. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to switch from just chatting to gameplay, and then from gameplay back to just chatting. But what I want to do is I have a HUD that shows some scrolling data that I want to put below the camera. What I want to do is when I switch from just chatting to gameplay, I want the camera to pan over through a move transition and crop down some, and then once it gets into its resting place, I want the HUD to drop down from the bottom of the camera. And then when I go from the gameplay back to the just chatting, I want the HUD to go back up and disappear into the camera, and then the camera transition back to full screen. I've got it working, so let me show you what it looks like. So this is my just chatting scene. When I switch to gameplay, the camera's going to move, and then the HUD's going to drop down. And then when I go back, the HUD goes back up, and then the camera goes full screen. So I've got it working, but it's not quite what I want, and I'm doing it way more complicated than I think it needs to be. So let's take a look at what I've done. So in my just chatting scene, you'll see down here I have camera A, which is my main camera. In my gameplay, I have something called the game cam. That's another scene that I created. And if you take a look at the game cam scene down here, it has camera A plus the HUD. So I've done all of my move, transition, all my filters are on the game cam scene, and then that is, since it's got camera A in both scenes, the move transition can handle the movement of the camera. So let's take a look at what I've done, because I think it's way more complicated than it needs to be. So if you take a look at the filters I've got, I do everything through a move transition override filter, and we'll get more into that in a minute. But the entire thing is coordinated through this. So what I do in this MTO is I match it to the HUD. So it's going to do everything it's going to do based on the visibility or non-visibility of the HUD, because the HUD's going to disappear. When I go from gameplay to just chatting, the HUD disappears. When I go from just chatting to the HUD, or excuse me, from just chatting to gameplay, the HUD appears. So I have it all tagged on that. So we do a couple of things. In the HUD source, we do really nothing here. The main thing that we do is this start move filter from and start move filter to. Now, the way I understand it, this is a matched item, okay? So the matched item we're going to do appears and disappears based on the HUD, which we're not doing here. We're going to do those up in these move source filters, which are triggered from the start move filter from. So when we move from a scene that contains the game cam, we're going to turn off the HUD, which is basically what I want to do. And then when we move to a scene that contains the game cam, we're going to turn the HUD on. So if you look at the move source HUD, we're basically going to take the HUD, delay it by 2,000 milliseconds, which is after the transition is over, and then we're basically going to move the HUD off the screen, basically move it up into the camera. And then for the moving the HUD off, we're going to do the exact opposite. The key thing to note here is that when we move it on, we wait until the camera position is done. That's what the start delay is. But when we turn it off, we do it immediately. And then what we do is in the MTO HUD, we actually delay that. When we're moving from this to something else, we delay that by 50%. So what we're doing is we're saying at 1 second, since the scene transition is 2,000 milliseconds, at 1 second, we're going to start moving the camera. So the camera movement is delayed on the way out because we have to have time for the HUD to disappear. I know it's very complicated and very confusing, and I don't think this is the most efficient way to do it. But if you watch the filters as I do the transition, so I'll go to just chatting and get off that scene. We'll start here. So when I go from just chatting to gameplay, we're going to a scene that contains it. So we're not going to delay the camera movement, but we are going to delay the HUD on. So watch this. So the HUD on is delayed, and then the HUD shows up. Now when we go back, we're going to delay the camera movement from this start delay from, because we're moving from a scene that contains it. And then we're going to turn the HUD off immediately. So then when we go here, HUD goes off. 1 second in, we do the move to the camera. So that's what I'm trying to do, but I think this is a more complicated way to do it. Furthermore, one other thing that I am not thinking is working correctly is I also use the transition table, because what I really want to do is I want to make all my transitions 1 millisecond, except for anything having to do with the game cam scene. I want anything that has the game cam in it, because the game cam has to move, I want to be 2000 milliseconds. So what I've done is a transition table is I've said if we're moving from something to not gameplay. Oh, maybe this is the problem. Should be game cam. Anyway, what I'm expecting to happen, and I'll try this later, is that if I'm moving to a scene that has the game cam, then I want a 2000 millisecond delay. And if I'm moving from the game cam to something else, I want a 2000 millisecond delay. I just now noticed that this is gameplay and not game cam. So that might have something to do with it. So I'll test that out. But ultimately, that's what I want to do, is I want to have all my transitions be 1 second, except for ones that include the game cam scene. They're going to be 2 seconds. So ignoring this part, I need help, and let me know, is there a more efficient way, a better way to do this? This works, but I think there's a better way, and I'm not sure what it is. So if you know a better way, let me know in the comments below, or if you could throw a quick tutorial together to show me and link it below, I would greatly appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot. I appreciate your help. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.